session, we had a sort of networking opportunity. Malcolm wanted to talk to you about the support that OMPA currently provides. And then we go over to Robin to talk about the guides and templates. And then after, in the final Q&A, there is an opportunity for you to continue to ask questions to us and the councils, but also to ask any questions to Malcolm. And also, and I think that that's a really interesting prospect, to ask questions of each other. I don't know if there will be any volunteers to answer any questions, but do feel free to ask those that have gone through the process and have done a neighbourhood plan. And if you have any questions for them, it's important to use this as a networking opportunity. Malcolm, over to you.
Thank you, Ricardo. I can have the next slide, please. So we've just had quite a bit of discussion about the withdrawal of the funding support and what that means in terms of the costs for producing neighbourhood plans. I think one of the thing is, as I said, Woodcote was the first village to have a neighbourhood plan. When we did ours, we kind of had to make it up as we went along because nobody really knew what a neighbourhood plan was. Now there are an awful lot of neighbourhood plans out there. A lot of information. A lot of people have used consultants extensively to write their neighbourhood plans for them. But there is a lot more support available now that my feeling is that I don't think you need to use consultants to do all of the work, certainly. There may be a role for consultants in one or two specific areas, or perhaps to validate the work that you've done yourself. I mean, an example was in Woodcote, we'd had quite a detailed site selection process that we went through, and because we knew we had some landowners and developers who were quite aggressively promoting their sites, we did get landscape consultants to review what we'd done and to do a comparative assessment on 2 or 3 of the sites, just to make sure that it was validated and supported. So there may be a role like that you can come across, but I really don't believe you need to use consultants to do all the work. The next slide, please, Ricardo. The key thing is there's a lot of neighbourhood plans out there, and they've probably had exactly the same problems that you're addressing. And we've talked about the things you can put in, like local green spaces and so on. So why reinvent the wheel? There are policies out there that are probably very close to what you want to have in your neighbourhood plan. So go and copy them and adapt them to suit. This is an area where plagiarism is legitimate, unlike other areas. And SODC very conveniently provide a document, which I think Robin is going to talk a bit more about, that lists all the policies from all the neighbourhood plans across South and Vale, sorted by the type of policy. So it's very easy to go and find other policies from other neighbourhood plans that you can adapt to yourself. And then there's the guides and templates that I thought I was going to be last. So it says you've just seen, you're just about to see. And OMPA can also provide support as well. The next slide, please. We have an OMPA executive team that has quite a lot of experience of preparing neighbourhood plans between us, where as a lot of our members do as well. We try to keep our members up to date with what's going on in the neighbourhood plan world, so we have regular meetings to brief them on things that are happening. And we've recently set up a discussion forum where people can share comments and pose questions, either to be answered by members of the exec team or by other members. We run workshops from time to time on various subjects, and within the forum we've also got lots of resources available. So there's a lot of stuff that we can provide. I would emphasise we are not employed like Ricardo and his team. We are volunteers, but we will do our best to help you if you've got issues or any questions. We're here to help if we can. I think that's my last slide, Ricardo. So
thank you, Malcolm.
Back to you.
Brilliant, thank you. Just answer a question while Robin gets set to take over this next presentation. So we've had a question on the chat about, can small neighbouring parishes with low precept join forces and produce a joint neighbourhood plan? Quite often the advice that we give groups is if they lack volunteer to join up forces. And that used to be the case when we did have funding nationally. It was advantageous to actually do individual neighbourhood plans because you could attract the funding for each area and invest that in your area locally. But as the picture has changed, that now becomes the answer more broadly in terms of it is always a valid option to produce a joint neighbourhood plan when you have a lack of volunteers, because they can just deal with a bigger area. But now with the funding position, that becomes even more relevant, and it becomes even more appropriate to consider that as an option. And one of the questions we had in the in-person session was about issues across boundaries between two neighbourhood planning areas. So quite often you will be talking to your neighbour about what you're doing and how that might be affecting them, and vice versa. So there is a benefit in actually working together and dealing with those shared issues. Now, Robin, over to you.
Just to add to that, Ricardo, there's an excellent example of that in Cherwell. The vice chairman of ONPA, Martin Lipson, heads up a group covering the Mid-Cherwell neighbourhood plan, which covers about 6 or 7 villages altogether, and that has been very effective.
Thank you.
Hello, I will thank you for still being here, everybody. Final presentation of the evening. Hopefully shouldn't take up too much of your time. I think I'm the briefest presentation. So yeah, we're going to introduce the new suite of neighbourhood planning guides and templates to you now. Have been given control, Ricardo, or?
I think so. Do you want to try requesting control again, just in case?
Yep, stop control. Sorry about this. Take control. Let's see.
It is a little bit temperamental. I had to click multiple times to get it to work, so you might just need to really force it, unfortunately.
You should have control now, but if not, I'm happy to continue to move the slides.
If you could just move the slide, it doesn't seem to be coming through. Sorry, thank you.
That's fine.
Great. So before we jump into the guides and templates, just wanted to go through the wider support that is currently available, because it all ties in together, really. So local communities can be reassured that our dedicated in-house neighbourhood planning team, who you've met today, will continue to provide expert advice and guidance. We're very proud of our strong track record in supporting local areas to develop and adopt successful neighbourhood plans, and we want these close working relationships to continue. As touched on just then as well, we continue to be responsible for covering the costs associated with publication of the neighbourhood plan at Regulation 16 stage, the examination and any referendum. So those final stages of the neighbourhood plan process, those costs are covered by the District Council. And also, we appreciate that we are trying to plug some of the gaps caused by the withdrawal of the funding and associated technical support that locality used to offer with the money they had from the government, with the guides and templates that we're bringing in. But we appreciate that there was significant value in the government grant funding, so we continue to monitor any future situations for future funding. And if we hear anything, we will signpost all neighbourhood planning groups to those opportunities as and when they become available. It's our intention that the suite of guidance documents and templates will support communities through every stage of the neighbourhood planning process. We expect them to play an increasingly important role in helping communities overcome barriers and develop their neighbourhood plans. Just worth mentioning that at the moment, the guides and templates are South Oxfordshire specific. However, the documents are available online and available to groups in Vale and beyond, And the templates and guides have been produced engaging both groups in Vale and in South. And looking forward, it is our intention to bring them up to date so that they are specifically related to Vale groups as well. Where this really applies the most is when you're looking at the local policy positions. So it's talking about the South Oxfordshire Local Plan 2035 at the moment, whereas hopefully in the future we will be talking about the Joint Local Plan, which obviously will apply to both South and Vale, so will be consistent across both the districts. Can I have the next slide, please, Ricardo? Yeah, so now on to the new guides and templates. We're very excited to share these documents with you and hope that they will become an invaluable aid in the preparation of neighbourhood plans across both districts moving forward. So just to quickly list off what's available as shown on the slide, we have provided QR codes in the slides and there is a link. So when the slides get sent round, and I think, yep, my colleague has just put them on the chat as well, the link to take you straight to the location of where to find these slides. So to where to find these guides, sorry. So we have a climate change guidance document, a consultation statement guidance document. Alongside the guidance document, we have a consultation statement template. We have a landscape considerations guidance document, a nature recovery and biodiversity guidance document, a settlement boundary guidance document, a neighbourhood planning guidance document, and a neighbourhood plan template. As the table on the slide shows, we do have a further guidance document and template coming, which is going to cover design codes. And I'm sure, as you would have gathered from Tom's presentation earlier, design codes are a very valuable area in neighbourhood planning. So we see this being a very useful resource moving forward. And this will be available in the very near future, working on it right now. So that is to come. We do hope that these guides and templates, I think Ricardo mentioned this as well, are going to go some way to replacing the support that was previously available through the technical support from localities. So where groups would have previously gone to a planning consultant to produce a design code, we very much envision that the template and guide will replace that process, and you'll be able to use those documents working alongside us in the neighbourhood planning team to kind of produce something of good quality there. Next slide, please. So just before jumping into the new guides and templates, just touching on some of the existing resources available, because these are still very useful and relevant and work alongside our new guidance documents and templates. So firstly, we have, as Malcolm mentioned, the Neighbourhood Development Plan Policies table. So this is an online document which we produce, and it lists all the policies from made neighbourhood plans across South and Vale. It categorises them by topic areas. So as shown on the slide in the contents page, there's a breakdown of all the policy areas covered. And it's just a case of, clicking which areas you want to look at. And then again, we have direct links to each of the policies in all of the plans across the districts, and then you will be able to see an array of different sorts of policies all covering different areas. So it's a very valuable resource which we keep up to date. So when neighbourhood plans are made and when reviewed, etc., we will update this document on a rolling basis, so you can it's up to date for you. Next slide, please. We also have another resource that we have is the Neighbourhood Planning Toolkit on our websites for South and Vale. So this runs through 9 key stages associated with producing a neighbourhood plan, starting with asking if a neighbourhood plan is for you. So at the very beginning, it provides an overview of the process briefly in its entirety, and it has links to other useful resources and documents. So, for example, I think, as shown on the screen, we have guidance on setting up a neighbourhood planning steering group and also a terms of reference example template. We also have links to external sources of information as well. So it's definitely well worth a look once you get going. Next slide, please, Ricardo. And then finally, the last piece of existing, the last existing resource I just wanted to draw your attention to is the locality archive. So This is a resource which contains a wide range of guidance documents associated with neighbourhood planning. Unfortunately, due to the government withdrawing their funding, locality have archived their support, hence why it is now called Toolkits and Guidance Archive, but it all still remains available online. And whilst the documents are no longer being updated, they very much remain a useful resource at the moment. And also worth mentioning that we have saved copies of all these guidance documents. So if they ever were to disappear from the website for whatever reason, we do have copies that, as long as they remain relevant, we're more than happy to share with neighbourhood planning groups. Next slide, please, Ricardo. Okay, great. Now on to the guides and templates and what they cover. So they have been prepared collaboratively with neighbourhood planning groups to cover those issues and topics which are important to neighbourhood planning groups. We see a lot of similar themes in neighbourhood plans, and these guides and templates have provided an opportunity to bring this information together in one place. The guides generally follow the same format and include information on, so yeah, as set out on the slide, so the national position, so both from a policy point of view, so specifically thinking of the NPPF, so the National Planning Policy Framework, and the PPG, which is the Planning Practice Guidance, and then also any wider contexts when this is relevant. You'll find information on the local policy position, so looking at the adopted local plan, which at the moment would be the South Oxfordshire Local Plan 2035, and then, yeah, looking forward to any future adopted strategies. The benefits of including policies on a topic is also set out, so to give you that opportunity to weigh up the information, inform any decisions that you may make, feed this back to your communities. There are lots of examples from existing neighbourhood plans, so allowing you to see how others have formed policies in different ways, very much following on what Malcolm said, you know, copy, pasting, plagiarism, it's very much what happens in neighbourhood planning. So if there's a very good example somewhere, we more than would encourage you to pick that up and bring it into your plan. And then the guides also explain what needs to be done in order to have effective policies. So what evidence is needed to support your policies moving forward. Briefly, just looking at the templates. So these have been designed so that you can just pick them up, hopefully, and start using them straight away. They have sections of standard text that we have prepared, and then throughout the document, we include prompts for you to use and for you to include locally specific information. The templates are intended to be a starting point, so we encourage you to pick them up, amend them as you want, add and remove sections, and take from them what you need, basically. Next slide, please, Ricardo. So now quickly on how to use the guides and templates, which is hopefully self-explanatory, but we'll just cover off a few things. So we want them to be as useful to you as possible. They have been prepared in a way excuse me, which makes them useful not only to new groups, but to established groups at later stages of the plan preparation process, or those of you that are undertaking your review. So just to sort of go through that. So for those of you at the start of the process or for those of you who are thinking about starting the process or don't know whether to or not, you may find the general neighbourhood planning guide a useful starting point for how to get underway, because it covers things such as what is a neighbourhood plan, the benefits of a neighbourhood plan, setting up a steering group, and the steps involved with designating a neighbourhood area. Whereas for those of you who are well into the plan making process or who are undertaking a review, so are familiar with the process, and you know those beginning stages are not so relevant, you can go straight to the relevant sections of the guides most useful to you. So for example, if you know you want to include a policy on important views, you can go to that section straight away and find that information easily. They have been prepared so that they have not been prepared so that you have to read each one front to back. So we want you to be able to pick them up, go to the relevant sections, draw out the information you need. There is obviously background information in all of the documents, and hopefully this is useful in terms of setting the scenes, but it is not essential that you read it all. We don't want you to feel like you're burdened with reading hundreds of pages of documents if you don't need to. They are predominantly going to be an online resource, especially the guides, because the documents contain links to other documents within them, for example. So that's a key benefit of them. And we'll also be keeping them up to date. So at the moment, the local policy position in South Oxfordshire is the adopted South Oxfordshire Local Plan 2035. However, if the joint local plan proceeds successfully through the examination that it's at, the guides will be updated to reflect this. And then that obviously aligns with the earlier point in terms of a level playing field for both South and Vale parishes looking at this document. And then there's also the national changes on the horizon that Ricardo discussed at the beginning of the session, and we want to reflect those in the guides as well to make sure that we're giving you the most up-to-date guidance. The templates are available in Microsoft Word, so hopefully that's the easiest editing format for most groups. And then finally, if you have any questions using these guides or when you're using them, the neighbourhood planning team is always here, more than happy to help and answer questions and point you in the right direction. Next slide, please, Ricardo. So we're going to briefly run through a couple of scenarios using the guides. This is just going to demonstrate how you can go away and use them. But as I said, when you come to use these documents, we're here to help. So please come to us with any questions you have. So next slide, please. Yep, just really briefly, where to find them. So on the screen, that's our neighbourhood planning sort of landing page, and you'll find them within the neighbourhood planning resources page as shown. Circled, there's QR codes, as I mentioned in this presentation, and links as well. Next page, please. And then similarly in Vale, same place. So consistent across both councils if you're coming at it from Vale or if you're coming at it from South. It will both be in the neighbourhood planning resources page. Next page, please. So when you get to the neighbourhood planning resources page, you will find that it will look like this. This will be what you'll be greeted with, a list with links, and these links go straight to the documents. So just highlighted on the screen there where you will find the guides and templates. And then also on the same page, helpfully, is the neighbourhood plan policy table, which I also mentioned earlier. A link just further down below. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a quick scenario looking at important views. So in this case, we're just focusing on a particular policy topic area. The landscape considerations guidance would be where you would look for important views, and hopefully it contains a whole chapter on important views as shown on the contents page on the slide. So looks at what is an important view, the local plan position, why identify an important view, how to identify an important view, and policy examples. Hopefully reading through this chapter should give you an idea of what you would need to consider in order to bring forward a policy. And the guidance contains resources which you can use to begin forming your own thoughts on how you might go about collecting the relevant evidence and forming policies. Next slide, please. So just taken some extracts from the important view section in the landscape consideration guidance so you can see what it looks like. In this case, the guide contains multiple examples from made neighbourhood plans. So on the right-hand side is the Ship Lake, an extract taken from the Ship Lake neighbourhood plan, explaining how they have gone about implementing a successful policy, linking any supporting evidence that was used, as well as flagging what was done particularly well. And then also on the slide, on the in the middle of the slide, is a table taken from the guide, from the appendix, which is a template that groups can use to assess important views themselves. And then finally on the left is another image which just shows a number of other neighbourhood planning policies that look at important views with direct links through to those policies. Next slide, please. And then just finishing off on this first scenario, looking at the neighbourhood plan template and how this approaches the topic. So the images on the slide show how the template includes some standard text which you can use, some prompts for locally specific text to be added, an area for inserting mapping data, a prompt for a table of information about the views, and then it links through to potential policies in either the neighbourhood development plan policy table, as mentioned earlier, or the landscape consideration guidance that was shown on the previous slide. So this is just an example of how you might look at a specific policy area. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so the second scenario, final scenario as well, is the looking at a broader topic, so the natural environment. So this kind of scenario might play out if a neighbourhood planning group know they want policies covering the natural environment, but aren't sure what they might cover or what they might look like. So not as specific as important views. So the starting point being the neighbourhood planning guide. There's a whole chapter dedicated to the natural environment. And from that, we can easily see the subtopics that fall within the natural environment on the content page. Set them out on the slide. The guidance covers a wide range of topics, and each section contains a brief explanation of the topic and provides prompts of what to consider and where to look for further information. In a lot of cases, it will take you to more specific guidance. So the nature recovery and biodiversity guidance that we've produced, or the landscape consideration guidance as well, as these are most closely related to the natural environment. But using the neighbourhood planning guide, groups and individuals can decide which of these topics they would like to read into, would like to find out more information about, basically. Next slide, please. So just looking again at the neighbourhood plan template as a comparison, the areas covered, which are shown on the list on the right hand side of the screen, do overlap with the neighbourhood planning guidance document a lot. So this is intended. We want them to be read alongside each other, and we want to kind of maximise what you can get out of the documents. The images on the slide are just an example that I've picked, so showing one of the topic areas covered, so dark skies in this case, and just showing some of the standard text that can be used, as well as linking through to potential policies in the neighbourhood development plan policies table and landscape consideration guidance again. So hopefully you'll see that there's some sort of consistency there with how the guides and templates have gone about showing this information. And then next slide, which I'm hoping, yes. So thank you for bearing with me. We've reached the end of the presentation. Hopefully those scenarios sort of show how you can use the guides and templates. As part of the ongoing dialogue that Ricardo's mentioned with neighbourhood planning groups, as we get into using these documents more and more, we welcome feedback. We want you to use them to talk to us. These are published, some published at the end of last year, some published at the beginning of this year, so they haven't been put through the ringers that many times. So very much want to hear from you and work with you as you use these moving forward. Just to finish up on some kind of concluding remarks from my side of, I suppose, the support offered, we just want to make it clear that we continue to offer the support that the districts currently offer. There's no change in that. Hopefully it's now going to be expanded by including this new suite of guidance and templates. The neighbourhood planning team are here and committed to helping all groups who decide to embark on the process of producing a neighbourhood plan. And we will continue to monitor any future funding, as we mentioned. And we want to continue to talk to you to understand how we can help you to overcome any future barriers. Hopefully the guides and templates will go away to doing this, but we are also here whenever you need us as well. So thank you very much. 2 minutes to spare. I'll hand over to Ricardo.
Thank you, Robin. Just before I pass on to our cabinet members to